Today we're going to be going over some blind buy approved fragrances that you really just can't go wrong with. I've built my collection solely off of blind buying, and it's, something that is a risky thing to do when you're starting out, but really, it's kind of, once you've built up and you understand what you like, it's not all that hard to figure out. If you like fresher scents, you can kind of take a look at how it's constructed and get a general idea of if it's something you're going to like. If you like sweeter scents, same thing. And when you're kind of going across and say you're a fresh fragrance guy and you're diving into some sweet stuff, well, of course, at that point, you're going to either have to do some sampling or be okay with taking that risk. And of course, note breakdowns aren't always factual, or they're not always entirely accurate, or maybe they're not always an accurate representation of how the scent smells. So there's some risk involved with that as well when you're looking at notes and trying to decide if it's something you're going to like. But generally, if you stick with scents that are just relatively easy and just overall very likable, it's less risk for sure. And so that's what we're going to be covering today. These are just really, really pleasant, really easygoing. They're just ones that I think work for a very wide variety of people, all ages, no matter if you're into fresher scents, sweeter scents. They just kind of work really well. Now, this first one is Gentleman Eau de Parfum by Givenchy. So an OG. I think what's this, a 2017 release or something, 2016. It's been out for a while, and one of the more popular gentleman scents, and for a good reason, primarily because iris. It has iris, vanilla, patchouli, a little bit of a balsamic smell to it as well, adding to that sweetness. But it was released right when the iris trend was kind of at the peak a little bit. It's when everybody was putting out iris scents, and things like Prada L'Homme and Dior Homme Intense and those types of scents were really popular and kind of at the top of the food chain, so to speak. Kind of like at one point then blue ambroxan fragrances, that whole trend was just kind of overwhelming. Iris was that at one point. What I like about this one compared to something like Dior Homme Intense or even Valentino Uomo Intense, which is another one that was really popular during that time frame, is that this one's going to be the most easygoing, the most wearable compared to those two, in my opinion, because they're focusing more on the vanilla. Still get a lot of iris, just not quite as much, and it's a little bit more of a beginner-friendly iris note, whereas Dior Homme Intense is going to be a little bit more, a little bit more risky, a little bit more specific in terms of who's going to like it. And Valentino Uomo Intense is kind of in the middle. But ultimately, if you want a blind buy save, easygoing, wearable, fall, winter, nighttime scent, Gentleman Eau de Parfum is a great option, and it's relatively affordable on discounters. Next up is L'Homme Eau de Parfum. So I've talked about this one a ton, and it's one of my favorites from the line. And even though it's L'Homme Eau de Parfum, it came out just a few years ago. You would think that this would have came out a couple years after L'Homme, which came out in, I think it was 2006 or something. But no, this came out within the past few years. So they went through all of those other flankers and then finally decided to just release L'Homme EDP. Kind of odd, kind of out of order for sure, because we had a Le Parfum before this. So yeah, kind of strange. Actually, we might not have had L'Homme Le Parfum before this. I can't remember now. L'Homme Le Parfum is completely unrelated to the smell of this anyway, kind of. But I digress. It was weird how they went about this. But with L'Homme EDP, God, it's beautiful because it's simply a more boozy, warm version of the original L'Homme. The original is already very mature, very gentlemanly, very classy and luxurious smelling, and just high-end and expensive smelling, but it's not really an expensive scent. On discounters, both the original and the Eau de Parfum go for around $80 for 100 ml, which isn't bad compared to what a lot of newer releases are going for on discounters, well over $100. So really not all that crazy, but it smells premium. And this one, again, to mention it, it has a cognac note in here, so a little bit boozy, a nice bitter orange. It's just a little bit more refined, a little bit more mysterious, and again, a little bit more sweet, more nighttime focused, whereas the original you could probably say is a little bit more for the daytime, office, work sort of thing. I think it's a great blind buy scent if you have a general understanding of what you like, of course. If you've been wearing Nautica Voyage for 3 years and you haven't ventured out yet, anything's going to be risky in terms of a blind buy for you. You know, you got to make the leap some point and start figuring out what else you like. But anybody who's got a collection built up or just has a general understanding of what they're into, you know, you'd probably be able to figure out pretty easily if you want something that's kind of mature and classy like this. Let's go for a cheapie up next. We have Ferragamo Acqua Essenziale Blue, one of many blue fragrances. And we talked about blue fragrances earlier a little bit when talking about the iris trend. The blue fragrance trend is still ongoing, and so is the iris one, kind of. We're still getting iris fragrances released. You know, these trends, they reach peak popularity, but they don't necessarily really just go away. I mean, they're still putting out blue fragrances today as well. So this is one that is on the more affordable end, and by that I mean, I don't know, I think like $40 or so for a 100 ml bottle. I got a tester, which doesn't come with a cap in this case, and so that's something to consider if you're shopping around. If you want a cap, don't get a tester. What's surprising though is this doesn't smell all that much like really any of the other blue scents as far as being a clone. So sometimes you might look at a cheaper fragrance, and Ferragamo, I love the brand, nothing wrong with them, and they're not a clone designer brand really. I mean, they have a lot of original creations, but you just might look at something that's cheaper and think that maybe they're trying to copy or rip off or borrow heavily from some other more popular, more expensive scents. It's not the case here. It really doesn't smell necessarily like anything in particular, although you could just say that it smells like a lot of other blue fragrances that you have tried before with a twist. Now, this one was done by Alberto Marias, which is really cool because he's a world-renowned perfumer, and usually a lot of his offerings are more expensive than this, at least double the price. You know, you could say it has a little bit of Dylan Blue, maybe a little bit of Sauvage, maybe even a little bit of like an Elysium-ish kind of fruitiness and woodiness too, somewhat. But it's not close enough to any of those to where I would consider it to be a clone, which is why I like it. It has a real nice texture to it as well, real kind of sharp head-turning bite off the opening, which I think is pretty cool. Next one we're going to go with is Armani Code Eau de Parfum. This is the new one. Which is important because it smells like Armani Code Profumo, which is discontinued. So this is, again, new Armani Code EDP. The old one with the old style Armani Code bottles, it doesn't smell like Armani Code Profumo. And Armani Code Profumo is a fantastic tonka bean based scent, which is a very popular note, and that one came out, again, almost 10 years ago, if not. What was it? Maybe about 10 years ago? What was it? 2015, 2016, maybe for Code Profumo 2? Somewhere around there, so we're pretty close to 10 years, if not there. And it's a great one. They discontinued it, and now they've essentially brought it back in this Armani Code Eau de Parfum formulation. There's a minor difference, not enough to where it's worth really obsessing over. And I love this stuff. I've always loved Armani Code Profumo, and so therefore it just makes sense that I really enjoy this one too. It's another ultra wearable, cooler weather scent. Has kind of like a root beer, fizzy, soda, cola, bubbliness to it. And that's kind of how Code Profumo has been described, and that carries over in this one as well. It's going to be probably more for the younger crowd. That's the only thing I would say about this one. You know, younger crowd, and then again, cooler weather oriented. Or, you know, early spring when it's still kind of cold outside, this one would work great. If I didn't mention already, I'll link all these fragrances down below to discounters. And it's especially important when you're blind buying because you just want to save as much money as you can. So always shop through discounters. I got them all linked down below. They're all 100% reputable. You've heard of most of them before anyway. And if you're new, well, a couple searches and you'll be able to see Fragrance Net, Joma Shop, Fragrance Buy. They're all 100% legit. Now, this next one is Tom Ford Grey Vetiver Parfum. More expensive here, and although price has come down a little bit compared to when it was new. But I will say this. If you were to get Grey Vetiver, personally, I would just say get the Parfum. There's nothing wrong with the Eau de Parfum. You know, they've had an EDT and EDP before. One of them got discontinued, and I think it was the EDT. So I think it's just now Grey Vetiver EDP and the Parfum, I believe. Could be wrong on that. Either way, one of the two got discontinued. So it leaves one other one. And in my opinion, the Parfum is the best one to get out of the three. Again, you're spending a little bit more money up front, but to me it pays off because you're getting a product that's stronger, which means it's longer lasting, a bit better projection out of this one, and just a little bit more of a hearty, kind of heavier scent DNA in this Parfum compared to the other existing versions. And so that's why I like this one. I mean, there's not a situation that you couldn't wear this one for. It's easiest to put it that way. So spring, summer, fall, winter, formal, casual, nothing. I mean, this works for everything. It's super, super simple. Next one is Dior Homme Cologne, and perfect for the upcoming summer months here. Love the bottle on these two. You know, if you look closely, look at the coloration of that. All right, it looks really, really cool. I love, you know, it's I don't know, I can't really tell. It's a light blue, almost kind of like a cloudy blue color the liquid is. But it's just, oh man, I love the look of it. It's so subtle, but when you look at it up against the light, it's beautiful. And the scent itself is even better. It's a nice, kind of sugary, ice-cold lemonade type of smell. 3 notes to this one, that's all there is. It's musk, bergamot, and then it's I think it's either an orange or grapefruit blossom. I can never remember which one it is, and I probably always get it wrong. And it really, when you smell it, could go either way. It's almost like, again, to use the word lemonade, that's kind of what this one smells like, a sweet, punchy, kind of sour lemonade. It smells like that on a hot summer day. I mean, the stuff is just, it's perfect. It was built for hot summer days. And you can't say that about everything. There's a lot of fragrances out there that are just too sweet. They would get too cloying in that type of weather. Not this one though. Prada Luna Rossa Carbon is up next. This is a great scent as well, and it kind of is also a blue scent. And this one is pretty similar to Sauvage Eau de Toilette and Eau de Parfum. But the thing is, this came out before Sauvage EDP. So it's really interesting. If you guys remember back, if you were involved in the community back when this stuff was kind of happening, Sauvage EDT came first. And then not long after, Prada Luna Rossa Carbon came out. And this one was touted as a little bit more of a smooth, less synthetic version of Sauvage, right? Because that's all that we had. It was Sauvage or this or just anything else, obviously. But, you know, there wasn't a whole lot of a Sauvage alternative out there. And then not too long after, we ended up getting Sauvage EDP. And these two smell similar, but this one did come first. And of course, you know, I'm sure they already had it in their pipeline of what they were going to do with Sauvage EDP, but Prada kind of came to market quicker and got out this version of Carbon, which is just, again, it's smoother. It's a little bit less pungent and like stringent and sour in that type of way. It's just, it's smooth and a little bit sweet. I mean, man, that brings back a lot of memories. I've worn the crap out of Carbon, as you could probably tell. Hadn't been sprayed in a while, but you know, we're pretty much, this bottle's about done. I'm gonna get another one. Love it though. Let's finish this video with Moustache Eau de Parfum by Rochas, and this is another affordable one. It's like $40 or so, and it's a 120 ml bottle, super heavy glass, like really, really substantial. I mean, you can see just down here is nothing but filler glass, so it adds a lot of weight. Even the walls itself are really, really thick glass. Telling you, if you drop this on your foot, you would be in pain. Like, it's that bad. Some of these bottles are so light that, you know, I mean, it would still hurt, but not as bad. Like this Tom Ford, you could walk that one off pretty good. But I'm telling you, if you ended up dropping this on your foot, it would hurt. And if you dropped it on concrete, it's heavy enough where it definitely would. Well, actually, I don't know if it probably would shatter, but a lot of mass behind this one. That's not important though. What's important is how it smells, and it smells a lot like YSL Tuxedo, but with a twist. Less focus on patchouli here, more focus on vanilla benzoin, and then some pink pepper. So Tuxedo is, it's a spicy patchouli scent is what it is. So in this one, you're getting your spices from the pink pepper, and then while you're not getting a whole lot of a patchouli kind of woody note, you're getting a lot of sweet vanilla and kind of dusty, powdery benzoin to go along with it. So definitely a big similarity between the two, but also some key differences to note. And it kind of separates them enough to where there's not as much redundancy as you would expect if you were to own both of them. There would be times where you might want to wear tuxedo, be times where you want to wear a mustache eau de parfum. And one of the key things is, of course, going to be price. Major difference in price between the two. Alrighty guys, that's going to do it for me. Some blind buy safe fragrances that you really just can't go wrong with. Like I said, I'll link all these down below to discounters. Always do your best to shop through discounters and save yourself a lot of money. Let me know down below what are some of your favorite blind buys, you know, whether it be ones that you kind of discovered on your own or ones that you discovered from watching videos or whatever it is. And if you have any bad blind buy experiences, because I've had a few as well, you know, every now and then you roll the dice that much, you can't win every time. Drop those down below too. That's it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.